Another winner go home game coming up Friday. Kings in New Orleans to take on the Pelicans, and some real shitty news. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
Zion Williamson, who has stayed healthy this year, playing over 70 games, was having an awesome game against the Lakers.
Yeah.
40 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists. He left that game late, and you're going, what's going on? Turns out it's a hamstring injury.
Yep.
Woj reports today that he will be missing Friday's game and reevaluated in a couple of weeks.
Awful. And especially, it's just like you said, it was like at that end of the game when it was a very close game against the Lakers. And as soon as he wasn't able to come back, you go, something's really wrong here.
Yeah, when he went to the locker room, you saw him go off the floor and he kind of threw a towel. You could tell he was frustrated that something wasn't right. So now they got to play without him in a situation where they're scuffling right now. Like, look at late last week when they're coming off some big wins in Sacramento, how they played against the Warriors. You're like, dude, this team's in a great position to make some noise. They go back home to take on the Lakers after that road trip for a chance to get the 6th seed. They got destroyed. Next game, a rematch against the Lakers to get the 7th, and then they lose Zion. Brandon Ingram's back in the fold, but he doesn't look right after missing 12 games. He only played. He didn't play the final 7:30 of the fourth quarter.
And then he didn't even talk to media after that game, right? So what's even going on there? Obviously, CJ McCollum's someone who loves to get hot against the Sacramento Kings.
Hot? Can I just throw you a number, a CJ McCollum number?
Throw it.
In 5 games against the Kings, the Pelicans 5-0. CJ is 19 of 27 from 3. That is 70% from 3 this year. But he struggled last night too, and he only came back in the game when Zion went out. So it's interesting how fast this changes in this group. It's kind of been out of whack since Ingram returned just a couple of games ago, and now you lose Zion. It's tough.
It is really tough. And I think for a lot of Sacramento Kings fans today, as soon as they saw that Zion out on Friday against the Kings, they were like, okay, is this good? Is this a blessing in disguise for them in that matchup? It's not going to be that easy. Do you remember how the Kings played when Zion was out? It wasn't the best game.
Yeah, the Kings lost 133-100 in Sacramento. The Pelicans came to town without Zion and absolutely destroyed Sacramento, like they've really done in all 5 matchups this year. It just hasn't been close at all. The Pelicans just came into Sacramento last week. They were up by 23, lose a lead, but then go up by 23 again. Then they end up taking control and winning that game. I mean, Zion being out for Sacramento is a blessing because they can't stop him. They have no answer for the size of Valanciunas and Williamson.
And a lot of people, look, he just dropped 40 on the Lakers. It's
a shame, dude.
It really is, because you're exactly right. You just think about if you love the NBA, if you love basketball, and you see what this guy is capable of doing out there with his size. It's been amazing, and it's just so great when you see a player that's dealt with so many health problems finally see some success and some health.
And it felt like he was having a moment. Last night, it felt like he was having a moment leading the Pelicans back into that game. You're like, dude, are they going to win? It's going to be because Zion is going at LeBron late in the game. This is what I think all NBA fans and Pelicans fans envisioned when they drafted him. This is his moment. So now he's not going to be there. I want to go back to that game a little bit. 133-100. That was January 7th. I was looking back at that box score. It is wild because, of course, the Pelicans shot 61% in that game. They were 19 of 35 from 3 against Sacramento in that game. That's 54%. CJ had 30 in that game. Then they had a whole bunch of guys in double figures. Najee Marshall gave them 11 and 6. You had Jordan Hawkins, the rookie, with 12. Dyson Daniels had 14, 6, and 5. Valanciunas 15 and 12. Trey Murphy had just 11, and Ingram had 15, yet you lost by 33 points. On the other side, Sacramento was in a different spot.
They were.
Think about what we're talking about after the Kings beat the Warriors. We're talking about Keon Ellis, Davion Mitchell, and their defense combined. What Fox has been doing defensively, Keegan Murray. In that game, Keon Ellis came in late. And I remember this game because the Kings lost by 33, and he was the one that went to the podium after, and there was controversy surrounding because Fox didn't talk after that game, and people were all up in arms about it, like, oh, he didn't talk. Anyway, Keon Ellis wasn't really a factor. He played in that game because it was a blowout. He was good in the stretch, but it was a blowout. Keon Ellis is now starting. That night, the Kings started Chris Duarte. He didn't play last night. And Kevin Huerter was available. He came off the bench that night. So the Kings started Fox, Duarte, Barnes, Murray, and Sabonis. Fox was just 1 of 10 in that game. He finished the game 3 points.
Wild. I mean, wild to think about what some of your star players were doing in that game, or even people that were identified as the starting unit. I know that Kevin Huerter didn't start in that game and came off the bench, ended up playing a little under 25 minutes, and he had 17 points off the bench, right? So he even had that type of game. De'Aaron wasn't shooting well. Felt like the Pelicans defense and all the long arms, the length that was being thrown at him really screwed with his game. And on top of that, their defense leading to some good offensive moments.
Their length gives Sacramento so many problems. And the other thing that just jumped out to you is the rebounding advantage that they had in that game. It was 51-25. 51-25. I mean, they got absolutely bullied by this group. And so I guess to your point, Morgan, even without Zion, you're going, look, they still have something that bugs Sacramento. That is the length, physicality, and they have to have, even with all this shit going around right now with them and the injury and Ingram coming back, they have beat the Kings 5 times this year. 5-0, and it hasn't been close. There has to be some confidence like, look, we're at home. Yeah, we're scuffling, but we've done it before against this team.
5 times.
But from Sacramento's standpoint, it's just a completely different team. Like, I'm
sure.
Keon Ellis, if you didn't watch that game last night, go back and watch Keon Ellis and what he did defensively against Steph Curry. He needs to have a big game tomorrow night. Keegan, in the last game against the Pelicans we were just referencing, the guy had 8 points on 2 of 9 shooting. He had 1 rebound. Last night, the guy in a do-or-die situation had 32 and 9.
Well, it also, too, and going back to what you're saying about Keon, you think about what he did against Steph Curry and the attention that was drawn, obviously, by someone like Steph Curry. And not having to worry about Zion now that he's out, Keon can still be attached to someone like CJ McCollum and make sure that he's not going off, getting all his threes, doing what he likes to do, getting into the paint, nice little floater.
Yeah.
I mean, just the veteran play.
You're so right.
Amazing.
They had to help so much on Zion for obvious reasons. They don't have anybody that can guard him.
And so if that attention is on CJ with Keon, are they able to pick up the rest of the slack with the rest of the guys? Now, the rest of the guys, they're not bums out there. These are guys that have been able to dominate against the Sacramento Kings. It's always like, hey, can you slow down CJ and Zion and then let the other guys beat you? Well, every single game, the other guys have beat the Sacramento Kings, whether it's Trey Murphy, whether it's Herb Jones.
Alvarado was massive in the last meeting.
There you go.
So, yeah, I think it's going to be tough no matter what. But I know this is not our full preview yet on this. We're talking more about Zion's injury and the impact this has. But it's hard for me to imagine the Kings losing to one team 6 times in a season. 6 times in a season.
Anything
and
can
I
happen.
think it's crazy how things can shift because I think Sacramento played their best defensive game of the Mike Brown era. Warriors don't have the size and length that the Pelicans do. So it's going to be another test for the Kings. I think, to me, physicality is number 1.
Oh, yes.
You have to exceed the physicality of the Pelicans. You have to punch first and keep punching because this team has shown you multiple times this year that they can punch you and they knock you the hell out.
They won't stop either. They won't stop. I love the way that they're coached. I love the way that they keep fighting. They keep just going through no matter who it is on this squad on both ends of the floor, by the way. It's not like, oh, they just have all these offensive weapons. They have so many guys that just disrupt on the defensive end, even if Zion's big body isn't in that paint.
The last time Zion missed that game against Sacramento, they started CJ, Herb Jones, Valanciunas, Murphy, and Ingram. And then I mentioned the guys off the bench. You got Daniels, Najee Marshall, Larry Nance. They played off the bench in bigger minutes. So, yeah, I'm excited for this matchup. I would have been more excited if Zion had been playing, but nonetheless, it's going to be a challenge for the Sacramento Kings. Let us know what you're feeling headed into this game. Do you think the Kings are turning the corner now? Did they figure something out against the Warriors? Are they more confident? Are the Pelicans against the ropes a little bit, trying to fight through these injury issues? How are you feeling about this game? Drop the comments below. Hit the thumbs up and subscribe. We're going to be live after the game. I'm going to New Orleans tomorrow. We're going to have podcasts left and right, content all the time. So be locked in. We appreciate you guys.
Deuce and Mo. Deuce and Mo. Deuce and Mo. They tell you what they know. Deuce and Mo. Deuce and Mo. Deuce and Mo. The podcast that you know.